So for the dove, to start out, we essentially do the same thing that we did for the heart. I've drawn the outline, I've fused my interfacing on, I have sewn my loop to the top here, you can see that on the back, and I have pinned the loop up and out of the way. So now you'll remember that we fold the fabric right sides together. Make sure that loop is sitting down on the inside. Put in a couple of pins to hold it. And I've forgotten to put my little markings on so I know where to stop sewing, so I'll just do that now. Okay, so that means I'm going to start here and I'm going to sew right around and back to here, just the same as we did with the heart. This one has a couple of points on it as well, so remember that stop and pivot with the needle down. So mine's all sewn up and ready to cut now. This is what it looks like on the underside too. I like using this method, this interfacing and drawing and cutting and sewing method, for a couple of reasons. One is it really allows you to precision sew your shape because you're drawing it on there. And you don't have to worry about your seam allowances or anything like that. You're just sewing on a line, and that really appeals to me because then you can be really precise. And the other thing that I really like about it is because it's fusible interfacing. If you've watched my cutting hand-woven cloth video, you'd know that I use this fairly often to stop the edges from fraying. So if you were cutting out a shape like this, and you wanted to serge the edges, it would be kind of difficult because of the shape that it is and because it's a small thing as well. But doing it this way allows you to have the freedom to sew with precision and not worry about it fraying. So remember, when we come to the gap that we're leaving, we just leave a little bit more there away from the sewing, away from the seam. So that gives us more to turn in with after. And then we also snip off any points without snipping into our stitching. Any curves or rounds like this, we can snip into a little bit to help us turn them out and help us get a good shape. I'll snip into that bit under the neck as well. Okay, so then we're ready to turn out the right way. This fabric was woven on my floor loom, and so was the heart fabric. The fabric I'm using for my next ornament was woven on my rigid heddle loom. Okay, so any parts that have points, pay particular attention to those. You're pressing them out with your fingers. If it doesn't come out so well with your fingers, you can use something like a knitting needle to help sort of prod it out, but yeah, you have to watch out because if it's pointy it may just pop through the seam. But I'm pretty happy with that point anyway. Now I need to get the beak. So my dove is stuffed and I've got the pins ready, and I'm going to hand sew that opening now. So for the Christmas tree, this is my rigid heddle fabric that I wove with 8/2 cotton. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm not going to be incorporating the loop in this time because we've got a point at the top of the tree, and I just think that having a loop up there would obscure the point too much and then it wouldn't look so Christmas tree-ish. So just for this one I'm going to sew the loop on afterwards. Otherwise, we start exactly the same as we did for the others. I've got my marks on here where I'm going to leave my gap, so I'm starting here and I'm going to zigzag around and end up back here. I found my clear sewing foot too, so I thought I'd put it on just to show you all. When you're following a line or something, it's much easier. As you can see, the front of the foot, well, most of the foot is clear, and it's got this big open space in the front so that I can see the line ahead. I can see exactly where the needle is. It's just easier. Don't worry if you don't have one, you just take it slowly. My little tree's been stuffed and I'm ready to close the opening. I'll just give you a tip. I did poke out these points a fair bit with a bluntish kind of pencil. The knitting needle was a little bit sharp and kept poking through, so blunt pencil worked a bit better in this instance. And just gently poked around on the inside to get those corners standing out. So I've got my inkle band that I'm using for this one, and I've just overlocked the two edges together, and I'm simply going to lay that on one side of the tree. Doesn't matter which, unless you have a preferred side that you want to show. And I'm just going to hand sew that on there. Pretty basically with a few stitches. Whoops, my thread went straight through. Okay. And you can make this as neat as you want to. I'm not going to fuss around with it too much. Just enough stitches that the loop's going to stay on there and it will stay on your tree or wherever else you're going to hang it. And then when it's sewn on securely enough, you can just knot, double knot, and as I've shown you previously, just sink the needle through, pull the knot, and cut the thread close to the fabric. Just as an optional extra, you can place a bead on your dove for an eye if you want to. Just come in through the back with needle and thread, pop your bead onto the needle and let it drop like this. Hold it in place and then sew to the back again. And then you can just turn it over, knot it, double knot at the back, and then sink that in again. And then you can just cut the thread close to the fabric.